I noticed that your AAP booklet is orange. And they said, you may want to consider getting the gold one. I feel a little duped by Universal Orlando or Universal Studios. When you're at Disney, the Disability Access Pass for rides, where you're given a comeback time and then you go to the Fast Pass lane, is known as DAS or DAS, Disability Access System. This video is about focusing on the AAP, which is the Attraction Assistance Pass at Universal Orlando. At Disney World, their system is a little bit more high-tech. It's through the Magic Band. There's often problems with it where the app just doesn't work and you have to go up to a cast member physically and have them scan it and give you a comeback time and all that. But Universal's is much more primeval in that it is actually a physical booklet that you open up and they will write down a comeback time. The problem tends to be at Universal Orlando that some of their attractions have such, it's not all the time, sometimes of the year this may not affect you. Some of their attractions have such an exorbitant wait time where the standby line could be 5-6 hours, and the Fast Pass lane or their Express lane, which is what you're going through with the AAP, could be an hour. It could be an hour and a half. It could be 40 minutes. When I originally got screened for the AAP at Universal Orlando, they gave it to me, but I discussed with them on the phone this concept of an issue that I had very honestly with Test Track. My disability pertains to the usage of a bathroom. I told them that on the phone at guest services with Universal about an experience I had with Test Track. This is me being very honest, where I had a flare-up. And although I was using the Fast Pass lane with Test Track, I had to actually get off the line midway, get a cast member's attention, where I was even able to get a cast member's attention. Some queues, there's no one around. And be exited and escorted out through the cast member area, get someone's attention, and be put back on the line, kind of where I got off. And I mentioned that to them at Universal Orlando. I'm like, depending on how long your Fast Pass lane is, I may still have a problem. Or if that happens, like I may need to actually get a cast member's attention and get off the queue. And they were like, oh yeah, that's no problem. And if you're familiar with a lot of the queues at Universal Orlando, at least I am from Googling them and watching live streams and understanding how these queues work, sometimes once you go into these queues, you're stuck. So it may be quite a distance where you're just not moving, you're bumper to bumper with people until you finally come across a cast member, which may be until you get to the loading area, and it may not be doable to actually get off the line. This video is about first of all with the AAP, also the fact that you have to physically walk to the attraction to get your comeback time also seems like a burden on people. They could have worked to make it digital. They have a digital app. They don't have a Magic Band, but there could have been a way that they could have designed something for people with disabilities. I thought I knew a lot of information when it came to DAS and AAP, and it was actually a viewer that commented in my video that I may want to consider. They said in my video, on the comments, they were like, I noticed that your AAP booklet is orange. And they said, you may want to consider getting the gold one. And I'm like, what do you mean? But apparently, there is something called the GOLD AAP. And the GOLD AAP means that basically what I've gathered it means is that once you're given a comeback time, instead of arriving at the queue and then going onto the express lane queue, you get a cast member's attention, or another cast member will come down, whatever, and they will escort you to the loading area of the attraction. So you still may have waited 2 hours outside the line in a queue, in a gift shop, which I have never had an issue with. But then once you re-arrive back at the attraction, instead of going through the express lane, and then that's where the problems occur. You are then escorted probably through a cast member area or something to the loading area. I'm disgusted by this because this was the issue, and it's still the issue that I had with Test Track and Disney, that if they have a situation where you're either waiting 5 hours or you're waiting 2 hours, that still doesn't help me. I still cannot go on that attraction. So, and no, not all of their rides have this issue, and not all times of the year, but sometimes this is a problem. And I had relayed this issue to them. What do I do in a situation where I cannot wait the amount of time through the express lane, because I know some of your attractions are that desirable? And they basically made it seem like you get on and off, and we'll try to find you and put you back on the line, which obviously is not okay, because in a situation like that where once you're in the queue, you're in the queue and you can't get someone's attention, you're going to end up having an accident on yourself. That's the reality. And apparently maybe that's what Universal wants. Maybe Universal wants you to, essentially soil yourself and take photos of it and put it on social media. Because I mentioned this issue to them very honestly, very open, and said, what do I do? Because if you have an attraction that has a wait time of 5 hours and then your Fast Pass Express Lane is an hour and 45 minutes, and once I'm in that queue, I can't even get someone's attention. Once you're in, you're stuck. That seems like a little bit of an issue. They never had an answer for that, or at least they pretended they didn't. So as it would turn out, there is something known as the GOLD AAP. And the GOLD AAP, the difference is that, from what I'm understanding, is that once you arrive back at the attraction for your return time, they see that you have a gold booklet and they know to escort you to the loading area of the ride. This seems to be something that they want to very deeply avoid telling you about. No, it's not the same as the VIP experience, because with the VIP experience, you're not waiting obviously 2 hours in a gift shop waiting to board the attraction. You're just going from place to place. And I wouldn't call having a disability and figuring out how to navigate around that as VIP treatment. And like I've mentioned before, at least for me personally with DAS or AAP, you're lucky if I'm going on 1 or 2 attractions the entire day. The whole process of getting the comeback time and this and that and waiting for the time honestly triggers my disorder in itself, and it becomes a miserable experience, which I think quite frankly is what they want to do. They want to discourage you. You don't even use it. You just walk around. This viewer brought it to my attention that there's something called the AAP Gold, and I wrote guest services at Universal an email about this, and I'll read to you what they wrote me back. I explained to them in a very open, detailed email. I said I'm a user of the AAP, told them what happened at Test Track. I said a viewer told me about this. Does this exist? They said, hello Nicole, thank you for contacting Universal Orlando Resort. I'm happy to learn you are returning to our parks. At this time, we can only discuss accommodations concerns with our guests in person at guest services or over the phone. For more information, please visit guest services upon your arrival or contact us via telephone at this number within 1 month of your visit so that we may arrange to meet your individual requirements. No documentation is required to receive accommodations to enjoy our parks at this time. Let's touch on that. Reference the documentation because I had mentioned them in the email. I have it. I know you guys can't ask for it, but no documentation is required to receive accommodations to enjoy our parks at this time. They can never ask you for medical documentation, ever, ever, ever. This is not at this time. You cannot ask that. We look forward to your call. They are disappoint me. Whether it's Disney with their actions, where I had an issue with Disney where a cast member at guest services took my photo, pretended he had renewed me because he thought it was funny, to these actions at Universal. It's these companies are doozies. They are doozies, and I continue to have to this day comments made on these types of videos. And when you do a little research, sometimes the person's username is not, you can't tell. And other times you Google them and quite frankly it comes up that they are an employee of parks. I think there's a lot of pushback from them. They don't enjoy people like me coming forward and standing up for other people. They want to continue to do what they've always been known as doing. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop speaking up for people who are disadvantaged, people who are going through something, because it makes a certain group uncomfortable. If I see, something that is wrong, I'm going to talk about it. And as I start to talk about and post it, just the way I had a viewer help me out and tell me about the GOLD AAP, others are starting to share their stories too. So, as it turns out, there's a GOLD AAP, and Universal did not want me to know about that, even though I specifically talked to them on the phone about concerns that would warrant being granted the GOLD AAP. But yeah, this is my latest video when it comes to DAS and AAP. I have many videos on this channel talking about a lot of the specifics with DAS and the AAP and the ADA. So if you're interested in watching some of those, please check some of those out. But thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you soon in my next video, and bye. At Walt Disney World, the pass has to be renewed every 60 days. At Universal Orlando, it's renewed every 14 days. And I've made videos before talking about how that seems like quite a burden to people with disabilities. So if you lived up there, you could theoretically be going up to the same person at guest services and asking them how their family is and confirming with them that you are in fact still disabled. I've talked about in prior videos that I believe Universal, especially Universal, is doing this in order to discourage people with disabilities from attaining the Access Pass. At Disney World, I think they've even made statements themselves. Maybe you want to get yourself a nice Fast Pass. I once talked to them on the phone from guest services with Disney, and they admitted that why don't you go get yourself a nice Fast Pass and pay for Genie Plus, which they weren't even allowed to say that. And they said it as maybe you wanted an addition, maybe you wanted an addition, maybe you want to be able to get on more rides. And that was never why someone would be even mentioning DAS in the first place. Many people with DAS, like myself, are okay with going on 1 or 2 rides the entire day or not at all. So it was never about what Genie Plus offers, which is their promise of getting on more attractions.